Hey everybody, this is Matthew Soltesiak, and you're listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast, part of the Minute Media Podcast Network. This season, it's all grit. I speak with a variety of guests and interview key players, gaining more insight on what makes this team go. The Detroit Lions are now in a new, grittier era, and we look beyond just the kneecaps when it comes to the analysis. Welcome to another episode. In this episode, we preview the Detroit Lions Week 8 matchup with the Tennessee Titans. The Lions return home after that big win in Minnesota. We'll talk about what to expect this week against the Titans. Plus, we'll talk about Jameson Williams and where the defense stands at this point as well. Let's get to it, Lions fans.
Hi, everyone. This is Herman Moore, and you're listening to Not the Same Old Lions podcast.
Joining me today is James Cook, the senior sports writer for the Traverse City Record Eagle. You can also hear him on the Get Around podcast. That drops on Mondays. James, good to have you here midweek.
Always good to be here, man.
And joining us today for the preview is Coach Jerry Angers, former Michigan High School Coach of the Year, as well as Coach of the Week by the Detroit Lions, and current scouting and training director for Bull Rush Sports. Coach, great having you here too.
Oh, looking forward to talking about the Lions football again. Working towards another victory.
All right, well, on our way to that, we're going to follow up from Minnesota. A few things to talk about here as we wrap up that a little bit more. You know, before that game, James said that was a perfect game to have after that Dallas win and the Hutch injury, going on the road against a big competitor like that. James, I think you were spot on, exactly right. That's exactly what you were looking for out of the Lions, correct?
Well, yeah, for them to win a nice tight game, I think that was perfect for them. This game, I think Jerry has a term for it.
Yeah,
Trap
he does. Yes, that trap game. And so the Lions, though, couldn't feel bad for themselves or overlook an opponent after the Hutch injury and after the high of the Dallas destruction. And so they had to focus. They did that. Other big news out of Minnesota, David Montgomery is okay. He took a knee to the back of his knee is what Coach Campbell said, and he should be fine. And Jake Bates was named NFC Special Teams Player of the Week, hitting that game-winning field goal. And it was 2 months ago that we talked about Jake Bates and his kick in the preseason, and I brought up how he might be having that Nick Novak moment of his career, a former Maryland kicker who hit a crucial long kick that after that kick, everything seemed to change for him in college, then he went on to the NFL. Jake Bates has been rocking since that preseason game and that long kick, and so that's exciting to see Jake Bates doing this well. Still perfect on field goals. Confidence seems to grow, not just on him, but from the coaching staff in him as well, right, Coach?
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, it's just like that. Our whole plan was to get it down within that distance that he was gonna crank it. He's 9 for 9 going into that, right? He ends up 10 for 10, and yeah, the confidence level just keeps building up. And he doesn't have to be a brick salesman anymore.
Yeah, that was an interesting story that came out of that one. That just tells you how grateful the guy probably is, because big contrast in work right there. Another thing Campbell brought up, he talked about that fake punt, James. He said the look was there. They could have done some things different. They can tweak some things, and he thinks it'll work. He said he's not going to change his approach. James, you like that?
Yeah, I mean, they had that call obviously as something where if the players see the team do this, then we have the go ahead to do it. And I think that's just the way a lot of special teams coordinators have it set up. They're looking for a certain look from the other team's lineup, and if they see it, that's something that's vulnerable to going for it on a fake.
Coach, it seems to be a philosophy he's built in. It goes with that aggressive nature that people call, but it's also the identity and part of your team. You don't go away from that, I presume, after one situation doesn't work. They're obviously not just saying, hey, let's see if this works on a flip of a coin. There's stuff they're scouting and looking at. Can you speak to that a little bit?
It's all percentages. Again, we go back to the analytics, and the analytics are saying this, and again, you give up a short field like that. Okay, they score a touchdown, we get the ball right back again. Or we go for it there and they only get 3 out of it, and then we come back and score another touchdown. So it's the analytic part, and it all balances itself all by the end of the game. I'll guarantee it. If you look at all the numbers and you go hidden yardage and turnovers and stuff like that, it's all going to balance out. And again, keep doing what you're doing.
All right, and doing what they're doing is a great job. Campbell complimented both coordinators. He said he was very proud of the work they did. Campbell was asked about the pass rush, and he said, we need just a little bit more. And so, guys, let me ask you, we're a few days later. Trade talks won't go away because other teams keep making trades for players. Where do you stand on this, James? Let's start with you on the pass rush. Do the Lions need to bring somebody in? Do we wait and see what Isaiah Thomas, the football player, can do with this team? Where are you feeling on things?
I think a little bit of both things. They have, over a week. Trading deadline is a week and a half away, basically. So they can afford to play Thomas this week and see if he does something. But I think ultimately they need to make a move and add somebody, whether it's just a rotational piece. I don't think it'll be a big splash like people want. It's not going to be a Max Crosby. I mean, if they do something like that, great. But I'm not expecting anything like that, given Brad Holmes' history. I think it'll be more of a small move, a rotational piece, a veteran, older player probably, unless they get the Titans to leave one of their edge rushers here.
Yeah, remember last year we were hoping the Raiders were going to leave a pass rusher at Detroit after that Monday night game. This one has a better potential, though, based on all the circumstances surrounding it. Coach, how are you feeling on this idea of the pass rush? Is it good the way it is? Are you still thinking, hey, it's a few days, maybe we need to, or is it still a wait-and-see thing?
Well, I think Thomas was already said that he's kind of the Davenport guy. So, okay, let's fill that. Let's put that piece in there and see how that materializes. The young guys that they played last week did a pretty damn good job, and stepped up and made some plays. So I think that's another piece. It's that puzzle. They're trying to put it together. We don't have to throw in the farm right now because we're still winning. If we have a really, 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 really bad game where something happens, for instance, in this trap week game, then you're going to see stuff. But yeah, we still have to have, we just because of the overall injuries, we talked about this before, we have to fill somebody in. That's my belief. But again, we also aren't at practice every day and going, wow, does he look good today? Man, is he looking good? Let's see what he does in the next game. So again, let's see what happens with this game. And if there's more positives, then they're going to keep doing what we're doing. And I know everything I'm reading, they're out there trying to find somebody. They're doing their due diligent work and trust the process. Look what they've done for us for now. Do I look at Twitter every 4 minutes? Yes, I do. But we'll see. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, we're still going to where we need to go.
Without VA, I would have paid $25,000 for my hospital stay,
$42,000 for my education,
$74,000 for my home down payment. But because of my service, I paid $0.
Get what you earn. Visit choose.va.gov.
Not all veterans are eligible for the type or amount of benefits mentioned here.
Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts for the power, performance, and reliability of a new Superstart battery. Visit O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Makes a lot of sense. Campbell was asked about it in his press conference today. He said they're not going to be overreactive and just make a move because of all these flurries of trades going on, but they've already said they're always scouting. They're always looking. We know they're looking to make a move. And if they are really wanting to make a move, are they going to come out and announce to the whole league that that's what they want to do? No, they're going to play coy because they don't want the price to go up, even though the price is probably somewhat high if the Lions are trying to get somebody from someone because they know the Lions want somebody and need somebody. James, I agree with you. Max Crosby, Hassan Reddick, from the start, no interest, non-starters. We don't need that. We're not trying to replace Hutch because you're not going to. But what we do need is a starting defensive end, right? And a starting one because we lost the top two, plus we lost Kaminsky, plus we lost Barnes. I mean, we lost so many guys up front. And so we're not trying to replace somebody who's already on the roster not doing a good enough job. We're trying to replace guys who have been injured. And I thought they'd bring in two guys, Isaiah Thomas could be that first guy, and then you trade for somebody, a 5th or 6th round pick for that veteran player who's starting caliber. So therefore, even though the other guys are elevating, they're not required to elevate as much. They're not trying to do more than maybe what is possible in such a short window. Because, Coach, you want guys to elevate, but usually there's only so much you can grow within a certain window. It does take time. Is that not accurate?
Yeah, and it's game by game. We talk about, your first game, you want to be better your second game or the best you can. You can say, hey, we're going to improve 10% every week or 4% or 50%. I don't care what you say. But the point is, as long as those guys continue to produce and make plays in certain situations, we're trending in the right direction. We're moving to where we need to be. And that's the biggest thing we want to look at. So I don't, again, who's going to come in and jump? Do we need a guy that can come in and jump, a plug and play guy like they talk about with the draft? Yeah, that would be awesome. But right now, here's what our hand is dealt. Let's go with it. And they're going to go with it, So injuries are a huge part in the NFL, and there's a lot of teams playing above them right now, and we're one of them.
Well, and that's the point too, right? We want to be healthy. We want to have guys there that can be playing in January and February. And so like you guys said, I think James even said it, we need depth as well. It's not just one player. So if you can bring in 2 guys at a reasonable price, 2 more, and you know what, it might be, see how things go. The nice thing is, it's not just the Tennessee game. We also have the Green Bay game too. So, and then you have 48 hours after the Green Bay game ends that you could still do something if you don't like the way things looked in Lambeau. So you still got a window. You don't have to overreact. And again, like you guys said, they're doing stuff behind the scenes. I think they're working it. They're looking for the right guy at the right price with the right fit. So, okay, guys, the big news broke, but we don't know all the specifics. Jameson Williams is facing a 2-game suspension. We don't know exactly for what it was that caused it. It was a performance-enhancing substance. Exactly what it was, not sure. What led to it, we don't know. So let's talk about how that impacts the team. And Campbell, in his press conference today, said they're prepared to play without Jameson Williams, but the suspension has not been handed down. So he's not ruled out for this week and next week. It could be later. They could appeal it. There's a lot of uncertainty up in the air. James, how are you reading this right now, and what are you hearing?
Yeah, the NFL's policy on performance-enhancing substances is different from the performance-enhancing drugs policy. Drugs is obviously something like steroids, whereas performance-enhancing substance can be something like Adderall or Ritalin. And I've seen some speculation online that that's what it is, but we have no evidence of that because the NFL has not announced anything, which may seem to indicate that the Lions are appealing the suspension, which could be this delay if, because Schefter got this information out, a day and a half ago. So the reason for that could be that they're appealing it. It could just be that maybe it's not as severe as the NFL originally thought or something, and they're rethinking it. Who knows? But that there is a difference between the PEDs and PES.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, since this broke, Coach, you said you're on Twitter every 4 minutes, so you've seen all kinds of stuff out there. You're also a coach. You've also coached players. You've seen players go through stuff, right? So, couple things here, right? How does this, if you're the coaching staff, how do you deal with this with Jameson Williams on the personal level and within the clubhouse level, not the playing field level? We'll get to that in a minute, but how do you handle a situation like this, and how does that impact you?
Well, it's, I was always a strike guy, first strike, second strike, now he's got 2 strikes against him. But let's look at the strikes he has against him. He bet on a basketball game in a facility site that he didn't know the rules about, and that's why his suspension was reduced, because the NFL had screwed up and the team and whoever not informing him on that. The next one is, it is on him. Come on, dude. Why? You got to be smarter than that. But but these things that are weighing on you right now, and it's not like he's going out and we don't even need to talk about what some of the other guys in this league have done. it's not like it's something crazy. It's like, hey man, maybe I took some ibuprofen and oh my God, the trainer didn't tell me to take it. And then and again, I don't know what it is. So those are the things is, like Dan Campbell said, he climbed up the road. Now he's lost his grip a little bit and he's going to have to climb up again. So, and from a coaching standpoint, this is something, and I know Dan Campbell has probably talked about it. I would bring the team together and say, look it, okay. And I would lay it out just like that. This isn't something, if this is what he's going to do to be getting suspended for, keep him on the team because they're not crazy things. They're not, again, be a little bit smarter. If the next one is where it's something, whether it's high speed or taking the performance enhancing drugs and stuff like that, then yeah. But right now, I mean, he's a kid, guys. He's young. He's so energetic. The team loves him. He's at all those Tiger games. He's a kid, and he's just basking in the success he's having right now. And sometimes he doesn't think before he acts. And so, let's go. And I'm sure the team is backing him 100% if it's minimal like we think it may be.
That makes a lot of sense. And so, and again, as others have pointed out on social media or even, on some of the shows, is like at 23, you do make mistakes. We all have. Obviously, there's a higher responsibility in his position and what's being done, but we don't know all the information. And I will echo what you said there, Coach. I like Coach Campbell's approach about building people up, getting the players to climb that rope. And he climbed that rope that first time, right? He lost his grip a little bit, but they're going to help him get back up there again. And that's how you build good players. That's how you build good human beings. And you work with them and you help them realize the best that they can be. So before we talk about how this is going to impact this week or next week, guys, if a 2-game suspension is coming down, you want it to start immediately or do you want it to be delayed? James?
I would have it start immediately because the Titans game is the easier of the games. After that, you've got Green Bay and Houston. Both of those are going to be dogfights. On paper, the Titans game is not, which makes it a trap game, like Jerry said. But the Lions are 11.5-point favorites now. The line moved a half point after the Titans traded 2 starters away.
Yes, it did. And if the suspension starts now, you control when it happens. It's now, right? I mean, if you appeal it and suddenly it happens, later on, it could be against the Packers and Bills back to back, So I agree. Start it now, get it taken care of if they're not going to appeal or if the appeal's not going to be won, but expedite it. Coach, long season yet. You thinking take care of it now?
Always. You get it, and Campbell and them and the staff are doing it the right way, prepare that he's not going to be there. And if he is, it's a bonus. He's not going to be there unless they know he's going to win. Does that make sense? And so, yeah, get it done as soon as possible. Don't say, this is what's going on right now. Right now it's written off. Right now it's on the back burner for the Lions staff and the Lions players. They're in the building. They know what's going on. They don't care. We're moving forward and however it falls out. So yeah, you don't want to say, let's play them this week and then we won't have them for the night. Get it over with. And it's the right mindset for everybody because you got to move on.
Makes sense. A great teaching moment for the coach. And it's another thing that'll keep the team focused going into this Titans game to avoid that trap, which we're going to get to. So let's talk about the Titans. Here's Coach Dan Campbell sharing some thoughts today.
And it's a dangerous team. They got a lot of weapons across the board. It's an outstanding defense. This is yards-wise, it's the number 1 defense in the league. Outstanding on third down. And really the stat is turnovers. It's the turnover ratio. They've gave up a couple and they haven't got many on defense. So, you flip that just a little bit and they're not sitting where they are. So, good football team that we got to be ready for.
Okay, guys, we know the Titans are the weakest opponent the Lions have faced this year. Favored by 11. James, you said it went up to 11.5 since those trades. The Titans offense ranks near the bottom, but their defense is at the opposite end. So Campbell's not just lying about them being good at that part. So, James, how do the Lions approach this game?
Yeah, they've got a good defense. They've got a very good secondary. They've got a few moving pieces right now at linebacker because they traded one out, they got one in. They've got a starter from earlier in the season who's coming back from an injury. It looks like he'll be able to go this week. So that may be an area that they can target with the offense, but I think that they'll be pretty conservative. I mean, that's what you do when you're the favorite by multiple scores, is you play pretty conservative. So I think you'll see the Lions pound the ball early a lot like they normally do. Maybe keep going with that a lot later than they normally do. But I think that's to be your game plan for this. Don't give them the big play. Don't give them the turnover, interception, and let your guys go out and win this game.
All right, Coach, 11.5-point favorite, man. You've been in some of those games. How do you approach this? What are your thoughts?
Don't look at the clippings. Don't read how good you are. Make the team believe they're the worst, that they're the best team they're going to play. And again, I call it trap game. I mean, we did that in that 2019 team. We beat, I can't remember who we beat. Big game. Next game was a trap game. I bought mouse traps and gave them to all the players. You probably remember them walking around the hallways with them in their pockets, because I said, anytime you think about how good that trap snapping on your finger, to remind you that this is a big game. Same thing with the NFL. And let's talk, let's touch some numbers on them. We already talked about they're first in total yards allowed, guys. They're first in total yards allowed. Their third down efficiency on defense is 5th. Their red zone efficiency is 10th. They have produced 31% 3 and outs, which is 3rd. That's huge. And we can talk about their offense and the defense part, but I can keep throwing numbers at you and you're going to go, wow. And here's the other thing too to think about. They're -9 in turnovers. Okay. So that is going to dictate, that's the determinant on your offense. Okay. -9. So between that and the way the defense is playing, if they win the turnover battle this week, we're in a slugfest. Okay.
Well,
we are
Coach,
in a slug. Go ahead. We're in a slugfest.
No, you're exactly right. That's exactly what Coach Campbell brought up. Is he said turnovers go a few different ways, and their record could be a lot different right now. And so, like you said, that -9 number, that's a horrible deficit for any team to have to overcome.
Well, the Bills game the other day, I mean, I went through all 5. I went through all their games, but the Bills game the other day, 9 plays, first 3 drives, 18 yards for the Bills. Granted, they did drop a wide open first down. The Bills did, but they had 3 and outs, and the Bills gained 18 yards. And then Keanu Coleman broke one, and that kind of steamrolled a little bit. But they were hammering, and they were hammering the Bills. And again, that's the stuff. And then things start to fall apart on them. So the big thing for us, foot on the gas pedal. Don't let them believe, and it might be 11-point margin. But it's still the NFL. I'm not taking that number. I hope it's a 1-point margin and we win.
I agree with that. And, the Titans, I think they were like 6-11 last year. So they did not have a great record by any means. And this year, right now, the Titans are standing at 1-5. They brought in a ton of free agents this offseason. It seemed like when anybody was getting paid, the Titans were paying people, right? Tony Pollard comes in. Calvin Ridley on offense, running back, receiver. They bring Mason Rudolph, a very capable backup quarterback, in. On defense, Quandre Diggs, a guy the Lions wanted to see, a lot of Lions fans wanted to see, among many others. Awuzie, a defensive back. So they brought in a lot of guys, but now they're dealing, James. Like, they're dealing fast. What are you seeing here?
Yeah, and they traded for a L'Jarius Sneed too, and all that too, which is another big corner that they got. They gave up a 3rd-round pick for him and took on a big contract for in there. Yeah, I mean, they're already dealing. We saw that they traded Andre Hopkins to the Chiefs for a 4th-round pick. They traded Ernest Jones, the 4th, to Seattle for the other linebacker Baker from the Seahawks, and also got I think a 4th-round pick back in that trade. So they've already made 2 trades in the last 24 hours. It would appear to me that they made a decision that Will Levis maybe isn't their guy at quarterback, and they're going tank mode to get a high pick next year and getting some extra ammo to move up in case they need to. I'm just hoping that maybe maybe they get Harold Landry or Arden Key to just stay here after that trade. I've been kind of lurking on some Titans message boards the last couple of days, and they seem to think that Arden Key will only fetch a 6th round pick, but Harold Landry will get a 2nd or 3rd.
Interesting perspective from the Titan fan base on that. That's something to keep an eye on, because if those other guys have already been moved, there's a good chance that more changes are coming before that deadline in 2 weeks, or just under 2 weeks. So let's talk. What do we expect out of the Titans? Let's start with the offense. It's looking more and more like Mason Rudolph, the backup quarterback, is going to play. And I guess a lot of times when you hear backup quarterback coach, you're like, hey, good, the backup's in. But Mason Rudolph has been, talent-wise, a very capable backup quarterback in the NFL, even with his time in Pittsburgh. And so, and Tony Pollard is a decent running back. Dallas wishes they had him right now. I guarantee you that much. What are you expecting out of this offense, Coach? And do you have a preference, whether it's Will Levis or Mason Rudolph?
I'd rather have Will, only because he's got pressure to prove himself. Mason Rudolph scares me because he doesn't have any pressure. He's just been hanging around, and now he's got some opportunities. He threw some balls against Buffalo, tight window, and just dimes. I mean, tight window, 3 coverage, forcing it. I hope he does that against our safeties, because they're going to get it. But I think he's playing with house money, Mason Rudolph is, and those guys are the scariest ones because they don't have anything to. It's, just look at Flacco last year, exact same thing. Hey, you guys just brought me off the couch. I'm just going, hey, I got a nice contract. I'm making more money, and they start throwing the ball over the place and they hurt you. So I think Rudolph, again, I don't, it doesn't matter which one there is. There's not a, Will Levis has got more turnovers, but Rudolph's playing. I mean, that's what it looks like. That's what it sounds like, unless there's drastic changes. And again, so Rudolph has that in the back of his mind, like, hey, I'm going to go out and just zing the ball around and see what happens with it. So it's, it's kind of scary. We just got to make sure we put pressure on whoever it is, with whether it's just straight pressure, blitz pressure, because they both throw in the 50 percentile in any one of those situations.
That makes a lot of sense. And DeAndre Hopkins was their 2nd leading receiver, yard wise, but not with reception wise. He had 173 yards on the season. Calvin Ridley at 183. I told you they signed everybody off the street this year, you guys. I forgot. We didn't even mention Tyler Boyd got signed by them, too. Yeah. That's a guy a lot of Lions fans were hoping they would bring in as that number 3 receiver. All right? So they've got a lot of guys. Nobody has 20 receptions on the team. And we're looking at week 8. Like, that's 6 games, which means nobody's averaged more than 3 catches a game. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 8 last week. And so it tells you the receiving corps got some names we recognize, but you also need the quarterback play to go with it. And you're right, you might see something different. Mason Rudolph has 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Will Levis has 5 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. James, I know the offense ranks low in yards, but what are you expecting out of this Titans offense coming into Ford Field?
Well, their offensive line is supposedly gelling together after they've gotten a few guys healthy and a few guys that they added to the mix. Kind of, you're getting that offense has played a few games together now. So the offensive line is actually, I think, playing better now than they have at the beginning of the season. Skaronski is, the Northwestern kid that they drafted high in the draft this year. He's been getting better. And, it looks like the one hole on the offensive line is at right tackle. So if Thomas plays, that's maybe where he's going to be lining up. So he's going to maybe have some opportunities there to get some plays done.
All right, Coach, along with that offensive line, what do you think the Lions are going to do against that offensive line?
Well, first thing from that offensive line, a couple things I found out. When they run left behind the rookie J.C. Latham, they have 5 yards of carry. When they run to the right, it's 3.5, and now they're down a guy there, so that's going to be so. Latham's doing well, mirror what James said on that. Couple things, they're 61% in the red zone TDs. That's 12th in the league, 12th in the NFL. 61% in the red zone. Don't let them get to the red zone. And then on their third down, they're the third worst at 29%. So you see that there's these little things that they change, they could become a serious problem for us. So I think those are something that, some of the things, again, that's that turnover, if that changes, if the third down becomes, Rudolph starts, finding some magic there. And then, of course, when they get into the red zone, they're going to score touchdowns. It's still 61% is pretty good, touchdowns. So I think those are big things. So defensively, basic is we can't let them get ahead of the sticks. Got to keep them behind schedule. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing is that we can stop their run and keep them from doing there and putting the ball in those guys' hands, especially on third down, because I think we will be able to pressure them enough with our front four. And if not, then we're going to bring some blitzes like we did last week and offset that. So, but good call on Thomas too. I think this would be a good coming out party for him to have him make some serious big plays, splash plays for us in this situation.
Yeah, the Titans' strength of their offense really goes against the strength of our defense because their passing offense is bottom of the league. But the rushing offense is 21st, which, again, Tony Pollard leads that charge. 400 yards, 4.3 average. He has a 41-yarder. Those aren't bad stats. Tony Pollard's still a solid running back. Fortunately for the Lions, we have a solid run defense, right? Our rush defense is ranked at number 5 in the NFL. And if we can stop the run, that's going to increase the chance of the quarterbacks making mistakes. So I think that's going to be a key for us slowing them down. Obviously, Coach, like you said, if we can get some pressure on the quarterback, that could help that turnover thing going against the Titans' favor, which could help keep things in our favor. Any your thoughts, James, on defense here?
Just their injury report. They're banged up a lot of spots coming into this game. Pollard had an injury just like a week ago that he's just come back from. Their backup running back, Tyjae Spears, was a limited participant in practice today with a hamstring injury. You know how those can go. Their third string running back, Julius Chestnut, who played a bit when Pollard was down, he was a limited practice today with a calf injury. All three of their top running backs are banged up to one extent or another. They've got a couple of linebackers coming back in Murray and Gray. Gray, I think, is the guy who's going to step back into the starting lineup for Jones. And then Calvin Ridley did not practice today either. That's a foot, but it also could just be a veteran rest day. Jeffrey Simmons, just a rest day. But L'Jarius Sneed also did not practice with a quad injury.
Yeah, you're not kidding. There is a list very long of Titans who did not practice, and then you add the fact that people got traded as well. For the Lions, the list isn't too bad, and actually, Decker, Glasgow, and Levi, they didn't practice due to rest. Same for Ragnow. Pascal did not practice, but it's listed due to illness, not injury, which is really a good news thing after what we saw last week. And Christian Mahogany's listed the same way. Oh, actually, Mahogany practiced, full practice, and Kevin Zeitler was a full practice, which as we get over to the Lions offense, that will be a big thing there. So that's good for the Lions defense getting healthy there. Let's switch over to the offense. Coach, what are you thinking for the Lions offense? What are you seeing?
Well, I think, they're a good defense. We know that. They can put pressure on you with their front four. Their base 3-4 defense, but they run a forefront in passing situations. And they have a really big, gigantic, humongo D tackle named Sweat. The guy's 300. He's a rookie. He's 362 pounds, and the kid can move, man. I watched some film on him today. Put some film together on what he does, and you got Simmons in there, and linebacking core is going to be a little, without the fourth over there, so that's going to hurt him a little bit. Sneed, we don't know if he's going to play, but their rookie corner does a pretty good job. He had some great one-on-ones, press coverage ones with Coleman, rookie on rookie at the last game. So yeah, you're going to have, we're going to have our hands full at that. They do a great job up front. And with their front four, front three, and they don't blitz a ton either. But it'll be interesting to see I watched more of that against Buffalo where they didn't blitz as much because, you got Josh Allen over there. And if you blitz, he ends up running for 75 yards and a touchdown. And where Jared Goff is going to run for 3 yards and a first down.
Only 3? I think James might take the over on that 3 yards if they blitz like that after what we saw. 4.5. I'm going 4.5.
Yeah. That's funny. So you got, they're, they got Simmons and Sweat and that Joseph Day guy and, Landry, we already talked about those two guys, Landry and Key. Key got his first sack last week of the season, which was pretty surprising to me, but, and so again, we are so hard to match up against, but I think they'll do a pretty good job up front. And, and I think our offense is going to try to establish that run right away on them. I think they're going to, they that front 4, front 3 and basically get them on their heels and then just start picking them apart.
All right, James, how about you? This Lions offense, what are you expecting coming in?
Like I said, I think they're going to pound the ball. The interesting, like you said in the injury report, Zeitler being back is huge for the offensive line. That puts starting lineup back together. And if Mahogany is active, and the Lions only have 6 days, they have until next Tuesday to make up their minds on whether to activate him from the NFI list. If they don't, I believe he reverts to injured reserve. So they have to kind of make that. But if they activate Mahogany, that gives them another guy so that maybe if this game does get out of hand, you can set Frank Ragnow, slide Glasgow over, and give Mahogany some time at left guard and see what you got there.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, if they put Mahogany down and don't activate him, then he can't practice the rest of the season with the team. So that would slow his development down. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that could be. Yeah, I think they have to. I think he would revert to the injured reserve. So yeah, it's one of those things where they don't want teams to stash players that way. So you can't let them practice.
Okay. Well, the other thing that's interesting, we think the Lions are going to run, but we also know in their last 4 games, as we've seen, and I think you pointed out here, the Lions have scored more touchdowns, 18, than Jared Goff has thrown incompletions, which I think is 15, right? So that's an incredible stat. And I don't know who came up with that or figured that out, but they probably just started looking at how few incompletions Jared Goff has. But I agree with you guys. I think the Lions are going to try and attack the ground game for a couple of reasons. You said it earlier, James, when you are the favorite, when you are the heavy favorite, you play a little bit more conservative, right? You don't take the chances you don't need to, and you run the ball if you can. And the Lions, their rushing offense is 4, their passing offense is 3, but the rushing defense for the Titans is worse than the passing defense. And, typically you have a less chance of the turnover with the rush than the pass. No guarantees, but that is something that does play into that. So I think we're going to see the ground game being pounded pretty good. But let's return back to pass catcher Jameson Williams. If Jameson Williams does not play in this game, how does that affect the offense this week and potentially even going forward to the Packers? Now, Campbell already said they're prepared to play without him, and we could list every single player on the starting offense and say they can throw to this guy, that guy, and the other guy because they can, or hand it off to them. There's also a chance that Allen Robinson might see more action. Isaiah Williams, guys we haven't heard about or thought about. James, let's start with you. What are your thoughts? What do you think they might do or how the offense might change if Jamo's out? Because even though he only caught 1 pass, he did a lot of blocking last week.
Yeah, and he was very good at that, as we talked about in the last episode. I think you're going to see a lot of Tim Patrick in this game if Jameson Williams is out. In the fantasy leagues that I'm in, you've seen people scrambling to go sign Tim Patrick, especially the deeper ones. So people are expecting that he's going to get a lot of work. We saw Khalif Raymond have a really nice game last week. But I expect the Sam Laporta game a little bit. With all those moving parts at linebacker, I think they're going to be able to find some guys that aren't in the right spot and get a couple of those plays to Sam Laporta over the middle that we haven't seen much this year and saw a lot of last year.
All right, now, Coach, even though Jamo blocked well, we know that. He got that credit. I don't know if he got the credit for this, but he dictates coverage, right? I mean, we didn't go deep, but it doesn't mean Jamo didn't run deep, which we saw Raymond catch the ball over the middle. We saw St. Brown go deep and catch over the middle. Do you think the other defense, and with Jamo not being there, does that affect the coverage the other defense can do against us? Do they put Khalif Raymond, who's got speed in his own right, and run some of those deeper routes? What are you thinking from the Lions offense and the way the Titans defense might be different?
Well, I think Robertson's going to get a shot too. I read a thing in there that his workload is picked up this week. You guys said it too. Raymond, for sure, can go deep on that. Tim Patrick, hey, let's turn him loose. They say he's not very fast, but I don't care how fast he is. He's 6'3", 6'4". And hey, last week, what was our deepest ball last week? That was to St. Brown, guys, and that was just a great play design that they got St. Brown open and hit it. What do we need? Do we need a 60-yard pass play? Do we need a 70-yard pass play, or do we need to move the chains? And I think that's the things that the Lions are going to do with that. I still think the threat of the deep ball is there. It won't be as much, but they do line up in a cover two a lot. And we'll use formations and motions to get us into that nice 30-yard throw that could turn into a 60-yard throw. So I don't see it'd be nice to say, hey, Jamo could take the top off, but I think we have enough receivers that can still take the top off. Maybe not that speed, but still can get open and get the route, and Goff can find them. So, and I go back to the tight end concept. He had some pretty he can run that middle seam too. And now you're looking at 6'4", 265, 250, and Big Tim Patrick. So yeah, I look forward to the team growing a little bit more with one of their pieces missing.
Yeah, because it does give that opportunity for other guys to do stuff. James brought it up as well. Maybe Sam Laporta has more of a role in the stat box, right? He still has a role. He's always had a role, but you see him in the stats. But Coach, I'm wondering also, do the Titans, without Jamo there, do they bring the safeties a little closer and try to play the run a little tougher? Or if they do that, is that when Laporta and Raymond go by them?
Hey, pick your poison, man. Pick your poison. Which poison are you going to eat or drink? I mean, bring them to the thing that, we'll hit. And I'll tell you right now, we haven't turned Gibbs. We try. And here's the thing. Let's go back 2 games or 3 games ago. We ran Gibbs on that seam route. You guys remember that? When I think it was 2 games ago, they ran Gibbs on a seam route. We missed them. Hey, he can run that too. And we can go to empty, and we can go to, so I just don't, I think the Titans are going to come in and say, we're going to stop the run or we're going to stop the pass. There's no way. And again, that's what a lot of teams do. We are so balanced in everything that, bring them down. I think there's a play that I drew up. I'll post it, where they showed a double A gap blitz, but they pulled out of it in a passing situation, which you may see that one back. And then the one big sack that Key had last week, they opened it up for that extra rusher. You could see how they designed it up, that if they had to bring an extra rusher to get to them. So, I just think they're going to, I don't know. I think they're going to rely on their front 4 to stop the run, and hopefully those linebackers who, again, missing a starter and a plug-in guy, and hopefully they can flow to the ball and make us throw it, because their corners are solid. But I just don't. I don't know. I just don't see what you do. I was a defense coordinator for 31 years. I no way do I ever want to face a team like this.
Well, and that's it too. The other great thing is, it's, this many games into the season, Tim Patrick's been acclimated with the team, right? So he's gotten to know it better. Isaiah Williams might get a shot to step up. Allen Robinson's been getting the reps. You've got guys that can step in who aren't just signed with the team. And you've got Khalif Raymond, who we've seen get involved more the last week or two as well. So it will be interesting to see who is able to do what, or have the influence if Jameson Williams is in fact not out there. One group we never want to influence a game, the referees, right? You don't want to win a game. You don't want to lose a game due to the refs, and the Lions have probably been more on they've been more on the losing end of the refs than the winning end, and we don't want that to play a role. But the man who knows the role it could play is James Cook. James, what do you got about the ref report?
The Lions for this week's game drew Carl Cheffers' crew, and he's in his 17th year as a crew chief, 25 years as an NFL ref, so he should know everything. The interesting thing is the Lions are obviously at home this game. Their crew is called 31 penalties on the road team and only 23 on the home team this season. They tend to call holding and false start the most. But interestingly, both of those tend towards the home team, with 6 on the home team and 5 on the visitors in each of those. They've called 7 defensive pass interference and 7 defensive holding calls, but only out of those 14, only 3 of those have been on the home team. So they tend to call the pass interference type calls on the away team in these games. So this crew only reffed 1 Lions game last year, and that was the Thanksgiving Day disaster against Green Bay. But in that game, the penalties were even at 7 apiece. So it was other things the Lions did that decided that game.
Yeah, a lot of ugly things they did that decided that game. All right, well, Lions and Packers play each other in 2 weeks. But we got a game before that, right? They call this the trap game, Coach. Lions have the Titans. Packers have struggling Jacksonville. They're kind of in the same boat, although I think Packers are on the road. So, Coach, what's it going to take for the Lions to not get trapped? What's it going to take for the Lions to win this game?
Hidden yardage, again, on special teams. I'm always going to go with that one because that's the third. Win the turnover battle. We got to be plus in the turnover battle. And then, of course, establish the line of scrimmage on both sides. And I think we'll be in pretty good shape.
All right, James, how about you? What do you think it's going to take for the Lions to win the game?
Yeah, I think they're going to have to run the ball. Like Jerry said, they're going to have to minimize or not turn the ball over. I think they've been pretty darn good at that this year at not really turning the ball over. But I mean, for all the accolades that we've seen with Jared Goff this season, how many of those the last few weeks had you heard about Baker Mayfield? And then the last 2 weeks, he's been awful. So things can turn on a dime, of course. You don't want them to, obviously, but I think Jared just needs to keep doing what he's been doing. And like I said, the Packers have a trap game too, maybe in Jacksonville. I don't think so. I see them winning that game. The other teams in the division, the Vikings are at the Rams and the Bears are at the Commanders. So all the other teams in the division are on the road, which road games are a little bit more chance of losing the game. So this is a chance for the Lions to maybe pick up some ground, separate themselves a little bit more from the division if things work out right.
All right. Yeah, I think the Lions simply they need to do their job. 11.5-point favorites, right? This is a game where you come in and you've got to do what you're expected to do. And good teams don't let bad teams hang around. Right? The teams have mirroring opposite records. And so the Lions need to come in. They need to take care of that. One thing that could be helping them is they've been on the road the last 2 weeks, and they had their bye before that. Their last home game was against Seattle on Monday night. So that home atmosphere might also play a role in keeping them energized and whatnot. So I think that's going to play a role. And then the turnover thing, Coach, 100% agree. Right? That was the Green Bay game, James. That's why that happened, right? All those turnovers. And so you keep that out of it and you keep the playing field level, and we know which way it's going to tilt. Okay, guys, it's prediction time. Coach, what do you got? What do you predict happening in this game?
I think we'll dominate the line of scrimmage, like I said, to do it. I think the biggest thing is we'll dominate the turnover battle again. And I think we will have. I'm going to predict that one of those new guys in any one of those situations is going to step up and have a huge game for us. I'm not sure which one, but one of them is going to step up and have a huge game for us. All
right, James, how about you?
Yeah, I think the Lions win this one. If I was going to put money on it, I would take the points. But not for the Lions not to cover 11.5. That's a big number. They could obviously do that, but I mean, I see this being a game where they could score something late and get under that. I think Ziegler coming back is huge. He's going to be huge because of another one of the strengths of that team is their defensive tackles. He's going to have to move Sweat and Simmons around a bit for that running game to be able to get established. So having Ziegler back is huge for this game.
All right. Well, my first one, which you guys already saw on the rundown, is I think Lions are going to push their ground game this week. I'm calling for 200 yards rushing on the ground. But since the show started, two more predictions have come up. The first one, the Lions will draw their first defensive pass interference call when they're going to catch a pass. It's going to happen this week. The flag will be thrown. James, you say they throw more flags on the road team than the home team, so I'm calling for that. And then you talked about the spread, taking care of business. Jerry said one of those new guys was going to make a difference. I think we're going to see Hendon Hooker again. I'm calling for Hendon Hooker to play in this game in the fourth quarter due to the score, not due to anything else. So those are my predictions. The last two are a little bit out there, but you know what? That's what it's all about. All right, guys. Any final thoughts? Coach, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
No, I'm good.
James, how about you?
I'm eager to see what Trevor Nowatzki does in this game. Last week he played 14 snaps. He had 5 tackles and a sack. So I think he can be one of those pieces to help replace Hutchinson as a Sam linebacker. Not obviously the same position, but I think he can help replace some of that production.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they use him on the pass rush at all as well, just to get pressure on the quarterback. That linebacking core has been doing such a great job. Campbell as well has been growing. So, all right. Coach, James, thank you guys so much. Folks, thank you for tuning in. You can find more episodes and content at notthesameoldlions.com. Tell your friends and family about the show. Like and comment on socials. Please subscribe regardless of your listening platform. And until next time, stay gritty, my friends.